Dre, what are you doing?
Back to Chicago 45. I am your gracious host, Darae. We are here with a great, stylish, fly young man right here on my left, Minister Stretch Sanders. How you feeling, young man?
Brother, I'm doing well, and thank you again for having me on the show. I'm extremely honored and humble.
Hey, man, it is always a blessing for me to hear other strong, black, melanated people speak, and then also for another person to kind of like segue me to this person, because I was like, oh, there's another new person that I can go listen to it, fall. So I watched some podcasts of yours. I done followed the Instagram. I done did my homework and due diligence on you, man. And you're doing the work, as we say on Chicago 45. You are doing the work. You are doing the work for us, and you're doing it by us. You know what I mean? So we appreciate that. I first off want to know, who are you? So let people know who you are.
So first and foremost, my name is Minister Stretch Sanders, as you stated. I'm a Baptist minister. I'm based in Las Vegas. I'm originally from Chicago. I come from a long line of freedom fighters in Chicago. My grandmother's brother was a member of the Black Panther Party with Chairman Fred Hampton and those. My mother was an activist. She was really heavy in Chicago back in the 80s and 90s. She worked on the Jesse Jackson campaign, different movements like that. And so when I moved to Vegas, like I said, activism is in my blood. Chicago is one of the most revolutionary. I mean, Chicago is activism, as far as cities is concerned. And so when I moved to Vegas, I saw that there was an extreme need, for people to be vocal. And so, I thought I was going to be doing music. And then later on, I got into basketball. I never thought I would be doing, freedom fighting work. But pretty much, Minister Stretch in a nutshell is somebody that just cares about, people that can't care about themselves, organizing in the interest of our people when they don't know their own interests. And too many of us have sold out for fame. We sold out for fortune. We sold out for money. And those who are supposed to be leading us are silent. And so I pretty much just morphed into something that it was a need. It was a space that needed to be filled. And, I credit God for putting me in that space. So I'd be 26 on Tuesday. So I'm still got time to grow, still got time to evolve, but I'm just this young brother trying to make something, make something right with what we all been dealt with.
For sure, man. It's great to hear that you come from a long line of freedom fighters, a long line of people who broke off chains for us, so we can continue to march on. That must be a burden on a little bit, or not?
Well, it's not a burden. I think it will be a burden for generations up under me, like my niece, my nephew, my future daughter. I think it'll be a burden on them because I took what my mother and uncle and grandfather, I took what they did to a whole new level. So I think that I had it easier with me and my siblings as far as like, we wasn't forced to be in activism. My mother wasn't really famous, or neither was my uncle. So we didn't have to deal with that limelight. But with me, it's different because I wear two hats. I'm a minister, so I'm known in the church circuit, and then I'm also an activist, so I'm known in the revolutionary circuit. So, I do worry that my children and nieces and nephews will have to deal with a burden, but I feel like, it's only a burden when you don't enjoy it. It's only a burden when you don't explain to those in your family and upcoming generations why you do this work. When they understand that I'm doing this for you, then they easily, come in with joy and a positive mindset. So it's not a burden. It's hard work though. You can believe that.
Okay. Is the level of activism the same as it is in Vegas versus Chicago, or there's like a different layer, a different
day and night,
day and night,
left and right, up and down, yin and yang. I mean, it's a complete love and hate. It's a complete opposite. And the reason being, brother, is Chicago was founded by Black men.
Yes, sir.
Chicago has a history of pioneers that broke barriers, but it's not still going on. Las Vegas is a beautiful city, especially Black Las Vegas, but it's a city that's still doing first Blacks. Now, I ain't talking about, over big things, but little things, like the first Black person to own this or own that. It's like, we ain't never had Black own this or Black own that. Like little things that in Chicago we may take for granted. out here, black people are still getting their feet wet.
Yeah.
Obviously, Vegas is a relatively newer city, but the activism, it shows that when black people came here, they came just to lay low, escape the South, live a good life, and work in the hotels. Same mission in Chicago, but because Chicago and the South was so close to the North, you really couldn't forget about the problems. Because yeah, you in Chicago, but your brother's still in the South, so you still hearing about what's going on. Yeah. And a lot of those brothers of our enemy, they moved to Chicago as well. Well, Vegas is different. Vegas is a long way from Mississippi, so it's an out of sight, out of mind. And so people got here and they didn't have to think about their brother who's in the South dealing with Jim Crow, because it's like, well, hell, we in Vegas, it is what it is. Yeah. And so the politics, you know, we always say in the movement, Jim Crow has sons. So Jim Crow Jr., Jim Crow the Third, Jim Netta, they're still dwelling in the city of Las Vegas. But black people, we still have that same mentality of our ancestors who came here, which is out of sight, out of mind.
Mm-hmm. Do you think now, in the current day now, that the black activist is more stronger than it's ever been? Because I feel like, for me, I feel like that was a dull moment. I think, especially Barack Obama time, we were really happy. And then I can't remember anything before that, unless it was back Jim Crow. So I feel like there's a missing footage or a missing picture of black activism for me.
Absolutely. Well, I would say that is twofold, because, you know, if we can go historically, you know, the 50s, 60s, we had a movement. 70s, we went from the civil rights to the 60s, 70 to the Black Power. 80s, it's all about crack, right? There's no power. The 90s come, we're trying to rebuild from what the 80s destroyed. 2000, so from 79 to, you can say, 95, there was no real movement. The Million Man March and these different movements kind of spark, and then it's like a 5-year period where it's dead. Early 2000s, they jump off with the Free Mumia Abu Jamal movements, the Jericho movements, the reparations movements, and then from like 03 to literally 2012, there's no movement going on. A little bit here, a little bit there, but no mass struggle. Obama come, no disrespect to Obama, but Obama was one of the coldest things dropped on us since crack, because what it did was it gave us inspiration and hope that we can be something different than a ball player, a dope dealer, a Boy Scout. But at the same time, we went from saying we shall overcome to we now have overcame. And so we stopped fighting. We stopped struggling. We stopped speaking up. We stopped standing up because we got Obama. We good. Forgetting that 8 years will come like this and like that. And it did. So now what you see is infrastructure of us trying to rebuild a movement, trying to keep a movement during the Donald Trump years and through a pandemic. So we have a little more resistance. But I think I would personally say that the movement is stronger than ever, but Black people are getting weaker than ever. We're not getting stronger as a people. We still at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to unemployment before the pandemic. Bottom of the barrel when it comes to education. We got more Black men in prison, less Black men in the household. Like, we're still losing. We got movements. We talk about Black power, but when it comes to us as a community, we're powerless. And so the connection is, how do we transfer the power within the Black movements into the Black community? Because what's happening is Black struggle is becoming a clique. Mm-hmm. Everybody's conscious, everybody's clicked up and doing the Black power and the rallies and all that, but nobody is starting to connect with those who are outside of that thinking. What I'm saying is, we so quick to march at the White House, we overlook the dope house. So at what point are we gonna say, listen, we need to draw the connection? Because if everybody, like they say, you show me who your friends, I'll show you your future. If everybody is conscious, who's mentoring the brothers in the street? And that's what we have to get to. Take the movement and combine it with reality. Because the just same way that the churches have become a secret society and the mosques, all these different places have this me and man's mentality. But at what point do we take that mentality and connect with those who don't think like us? Because if we just talk about we having movement stuff and only those who are invited are the conscious, so-called conscious, what type of movement is that? Yeah. So yeah, the movement's growing, but the people ain't. People who don't think like that.
Okay, man, you dropping it hard, man. You dropping it. So recent events where the Capitol was stormed. Are you surprised? Were you surprised that happened?
I was surprised in a sense of, wow, I can't believe this is happening, but I wasn't shocked, right? Because, we know that America is still as racist as anything can be because that's our fabric. So we know that the majority of people in this country who are in power, or not even the majority, but those who are in power are white. And the majority of those who are white are racist. And so they're operating a system of white supremacy. And so Donald Trump didn't create racism. What Donald Trump did was he may have given a bigger voice. He may have encouraged a few folks. He may have energized a few folks, but it was already in the land. It was already in the soil. So he may have put a little water here, a little sunlight here, but it was already here. And so what we saw in the Capitol was a reflection, right? Anytime we march, anytime we fight, anytime we organize, we serve as a Black race, we walking with mirrors saying, look at what y'all doing to us. Black Lives Matter was a mirror. Black Power, these are mirrors. Mirrors to us as a people, but also mirrors to the enemy. And what they did was just show us that the mirrors we've been carrying is true. All it was just a reflection of what we've been talking about. Now do y'all see there's an inequality? Now do y'all see that it's a difference between how we're handled and how y'all handle? Now it's a difference in the language. They didn't even call them thugs. They didn't even call them terrorists. They called them protesters. That's a protest, breaking into a federal building and pretty much doing a hostile takeover.
Yeah.
So I was not surprised or shocked in a sense where this is not America. I'm seeing posts. This is not America. This is indeed America. You name a time in history where the massive white people have not showed out when they felt like it. And so it's part of our fabric. And as long as we keep saying this is not America, we're going to dress down and water down the impact and how dangerous and whitewash the power of white privilege and whiteness and racism. So we got to call a thing a thing. And what that was a domestic terroristic act that took place, that was allowed, that was what we consider green lighted, and pretty much I would say helped to co-hosted by the government and those in power. You don't just take over something like that. Man, come on. If that was us, we'd have been shot. We wouldn't even made it to the step. We'd have got shot in the alley.
I tell people you wouldn't even saw the grass.
You did.
You wouldn't even saw the grass. It was premeditated. It was officiated from them. They allowed that to happen, and like you said, that's pretty beautiful how you said it. It's a mirror of how we already knew what it was. And as far as America ever being not racist, I'm getting sick of people saying America, we're not like that. That's not who we are as a people. That's been the fabric of America since we came here and pillaged all the Native Americans and killed and raped them, and then they brought us here and did the exact same thing to us. So it's been the exact same thing. So I think the next thing I want to ask you, because I grew up on Hidden Colors, I grew up on some of those films and stuff like that. The Nat Turner stuff, all of the Kunta Kinte movies, The Roots. That kind of shaped my mind on the Black plight of Black people and the struggle and things like that, and try to educate myself that way. How do a Black person, let's say a teenager, educate themselves on being Black, the struggle, and the totality of being Black? Because in school, the school system does not teach you the actual truth. It whitewashes it. It'll give you 2 pages in a book as far as African American history. So how do Black kids or kids of color go out and get that information?
Well, it wouldn't make any good to get information that you're not ready to receive. So the first thing you got to do is prepare yourself, because it's a lot of information. Knowledge of self, right? That means that the knowledge of who you are and your people, that's going to breed love for self. But you cannot love your neighbor until you love you. Neighbor love is predicated. Predication means based upon you loving you first. And then to put it in scripture, the Bible says, how can you love who you cannot see, but hate who you see every day? So we got to start with loving our family, but we got to take that love and generate it with self. And so the first thing I did, and I would encourage anybody who wants to get on the quest to know about their history, is to first learn how to accept yourself, right? If you sit and talk about, I hate the color of my eyes, I hate my hair texture, I hate my big nose, you're gonna have a hard time watching Hidden Colors or Unhidden Colors or whatever you want to watch because you're struggling with just accepting your own blackness. A lot of us in the women community as well, in the Black women community, we have been made to feel that everything we have in us is wrong. So you first got to start with saying, listen, I'm going to accept me. I'm going to love me. And the more that you read, I always encourage reading. Pick up anything. I'll type in Black books on Amazon and just start getting your hands on so many books. One of the books I would always suggest is a book called Brainwashed. Brainwashed breaks down literally how we have been brainwashed to hate ourselves. It's almost like Malcolm X's Who Taught You to Hate Yourself speech in a book. It breaks down the good hair, bad hair statements. It breaks down the slave mentality. We think that we think we don't have, but we do have. And so we got to first start with literally loving ourselves, obviously loving the source, loving God, because when you love the source and you can love the creator, you can love the creations. Love the source. The source is going to give you the wisdom to receive the knowledge, to know who you are. Because what happened to our people when, we're battling a whole war because we was taken from our land. We was robbed of our knowledge of self, our culture, our religion, our Norways, our four ways, our God. And so we're literally, it's like the blind leading the blind. And so the enemy, the greatest thing he did was put us in a position to self-destruct without getting his hands directly dirty. So we have to unravel that work by saying, listen, we got to love each other. Fake it till you make it. Even if you don't have no love in your heart, declare that because the enemy is laughing. And so I would encourage that you always got to start with knowledge of self. Research, even if it's just Black history on YouTube. Start learning a little, because the more you learn of your history, like I learned my uncle and my mom was in the movement. That made me want to say, man, I'm proud to be in the movement now because I know I stand on greatness. So when you know that your people built the pyramids, your people, slavery interrupted our history. It didn't start it. Our people built math and created math, and all the things you were told is a lie. Everything you was told is a lie. We created that. We started that. We are the original men. We are the first. So anytime you get to something first, you have access, home court advantage to master it, to be the best. That's why if you see with our people, everything we do is cold. We chew the best, we walk the best, we shower the best, we drink the best. Everything we do is the best because we got to it first. We have more time to prepare to master it. And when you know that, it has a certain pride and you would generate a certain love for your brother because we're all connected. See, the word brother, the root word of the word brother is other. B-R-O-T-H-E-R. Your brother is the other version of you. So you recognize that me and my brother are one and the same. Everything you want for you, you want for your brother. And the more you take on that mentality, you want to read more history. You want to learn more Black culture. But if you don't have love in your heart, you can't receive the culture. There's a lot of us, example, Candace Owens. Sister's very knowledgeable on Black culture, but she doesn't have no love for Black people. So no matter how much she learns, how much she's taught, she's going to resist because she has no love for her own. So we got to start with loving our own and loving ourselves and giving our people grace. Black people can't do nothing. This is why I don't support niggas. This is why, but you don't say that to your enemy when you're in Walmart for 2 and 3 hours. So I had to take grace for my people and realize I'm mad at a person for being turned into something they're not. A lot of Black people, it's just like the old saying, why would you expect a two-seat car to sit 4 people? We have been made to be 2-seat cars, but our nature is 6-seat, 3 rows. You know what I'm saying? We can embrace so much love, but we've been designed to only receive 2 people at a time. So therefore, when we have this crabs in a barrel mentality or we hating on our people, we have to realize that's a design that we were made. It's not our natural design. We're not criminal by nature. We are criminal by design. We don't hate by nature. We hate by design. So you got to start with knowledge of self. When you love yourself, you can love others. And when you love others, you can receive the knowledge and the history that you and others have generated.
Okay. So I got another question for you. As far as being a minister and then also being a super activist, does those and now time, does those things correlate still? Because I've heard people say being a minister almost weakens the other side of being an activist because you can't be, as they would say, militant, or you can't, have that friction over here because you gotta go by the book of the Lord and things like that. Does that still correlate? Can we still have a Martin Luther King and to have a Malcolm X together in one body.
Absolutely. I'm a living example. Dr. King is not the standard of a Black preacher activism. I know that we think he is, and I'm a student of King. I may come across more Malcolm sometimes, but I'm definitely a student of King. But at the same time, I'm also a student of brothers like Reverend Albert Cleage, who was a minister who founded the Black Shrine of Madonna Orthodox Pan-African Church, which is a church that taught, it was almost like, if you would close your eyes, you would think you was listening to like a Malcolm X or Elijah Muhammad. These were Christians. They wore the robe, they wore the collar, and they taught that, like the word say, Jesus is Black, the angels is Black, people in the Bible were Black. They talked about Pan-Africanism, talked about the unification of Black people. So I studied these preachers, which would be called Black liberation theologians. Dr. James Cone, Dr. Cornel West. These are preachers who teach about the radicalism of Christianity. Anybody who's a believer of Jesus knows that Jesus was the first revolutionary on the scene. He was radical. He flipped tables. He hung out with the prostitute. He hung out with the people in the street so he can transform their mentality. So a lot of us in the community of Christianity who feel that we have to be like King, it's because that's all we know. And truth be told, the King that we know ain't the real King. Because King was pro-Black. King talked about take your money out them white banks, put them in Black banks. He talked about I'm Black and I'm beautiful and I love my people. He wasn't a fan of the phrase Black power, but he still said freedom now. So King was clear with what Jesus did and what it looks like for activism to meet Christianity. I always say this, not every Christian minister is an activist, or not every activist is a Christian minister, but every Christian minister should be an activist. And so as a minister, when you sign up to be a minister, you have no choice but to merge. The Bible says, do good and seek justice. So we have an obligation to help with the oppressed, but unfortunately, too many of our preachers have lost sight of that. Why, brother? Because we sold out. And oftentimes, you check our track record, we ain't never sell off. We ain't bought in. We was never 5 people. We was for the money, and we used religion and Jesus and God as a smokescreen, as a disguise to try to mask our real agenda. And our real agenda is money. And the reason why I say that is because you judge the tree by the fruit it bears. A lot of these big time churches is parked right next to a dope house. You think they try to go in there and transform those people? You think they try to open up their own rehabs? No. Why? Because they don't care. Because they was bought out when they signed that Faith Initiative Act with George Bush signed in the early 2000s that mandated every church become a nonprofit to receive money and funding. A lot of churches had to choose. If I want to get this funding, I can't talk like this. If I want to get this funding, I can't move like this. If I want to get this funding, I can't get the new church. I can't get the new parking lot. I can't get the new stage and new sound system and my new Bentley and my new home in the suburbs. So we have preachers and faith leaders that made a choice. I'm going to sell out on God, sell out on the principles of the Bible, and I'm going to go along with what man say to get those resources, to get those earthly things. And so that's the issue. But I still read the Bible that talks about fighting for the oppressed, fighting for those who are, needy and the poor. And unfortunately, a lot of our so-called leaders and pastors have just, sold out. They bought into the system and they sucked up.
This is my last question. I know we pressed for time, but I've been enjoying this conversation. Should the name Black Lives Matter be changed? Because I love it. I love the name. It speaks to me, but it doesn't open up for everybody to come in because they feel like, oh, it's offensive. It's not about me. Should the name be should it be changed for the liking of others so they can join the movement, or we're totally fine it just being Black Lives Matters?
When you say other, you mean like other races?
Yes.
Okay, so I would say this. I would say that personally, I'm not concerned with other races being left out. And the reason being is that, they don't hear us complain. We see Chinatown, we see Little Italy, we see Polish Town, Jewtown, Little Korea, Little Mexico. We don't say a word. But the moment Black people always want to get on, not to cut nobody out, but to lift us up. We always told, why can't we come? Why about all lives? We never said all lives matter. We said we matter. But see, white people have this guilt complex, and they feel that if we ever unite and if we ever come to power, we will do to those which they've done to us. And that's not the heart of our people. It's never been the heart of our people. And so I would say, as far as not just Black Lives Matter, but anything that's for us, it's to stay us. That doesn't mean I don't believe in solidarity, because I do. I think that you have specific coalitions for specific purposes. There are times and places where we need to unite. We need to gather. I'm doing a rally next week to bring together as many of those who want to come together to combat racism. But my organization, New Era Las Vegas, we're clear. New Era Nations, our national, we also are clear that we are pro-Black. And we're not going to feel guilty or feel bad for doing our own thing when you can clearly see we are at the bottom of the barrel. As far as the term Black Lives Matter, I think that Black Lives Matter is a noble term. I think that Black Lives Matter is something that it's a constant reminder. I'm so sorry. Piper.
Are you good?
It's a constant reminder that we need to be more. Piper.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine, man. Don't worry about it.
Black Lives Matter is a constant reminder that we need to matter, and we need to focus on the systemic issues that oppress us. But I can't say that I'm a fan of some of the things that Black Lives Matter as an organization stands for. Because when I look at Black Lives Matter website, I don't see men, I don't see Black men being mentioned. I think that's ironic, considering the fact that this is a movement that was started on behalf of a young Black male, i.e. Trayvon Martin. And I think that we have a lot of perspectives, you know, from the feminist perspective, from the LGBTQ perspective, you know, which I have no issue with those perspectives, but I think those perspectives should be put in proper perspectives in regards to, if we're going to do Black Lives Matter, we Black Lives Matter. That means we're trans Black lives. I mean, we gay Black lives. I mean, we Crip Black lives. We blood. We stone. We GD Black lives. Whatever Black life, we all. We can't pick and choose and say, well, because I'm a feminist, we're gonna be feminist Black lives, or because I'm homosexual, we're gonna be homosexual. It can't work like that. We got to include all. And so I see sometimes with these Black Lives Matter organizations, it doesn't always include us and us. And so I would say that when in return, in regards and in terms of keeping the name Black Lives Matter, I think it has its place. I always try to clarify to people in media and things that I am not Black Lives Matter. I used to consider myself a Black Lives Matter activist, but I don't, because it's twofold. One fold is Black Lives Matter is an organization. So that's like me calling myself a Black Panther back in the day, and I'm not a member of the Black Panther Party. Even though it's a phrase, it's also an organization. And so I'll still occasionally have the hoodie on with the phrase and things like that, but I'm at a point where we're pushing for Black Power Matters, because our lives don't matter because we have no power to them. We got power to us, but we're not tapping into that greatness within to show them that you got the wrong ones. We're so powerful, we're so valuable, we're so worthy as a people, and everybody sees it but the Black man and the Black woman. So we can't just be saying Black Lives Matter and don't acknowledge Black Power Matter. Secondly, as I close, we can't keep saying Black Lives Matter to the White House and we ignoring the dope house. Black Lives Matter when the police kill us, but when the dude down the street kill us, you're silent. You don't want to snitch. And again, I'm not comparing and contrasting, because in some terms it is apples and lotion. It's two different things. When the officer Gil McCuddy kills us, he get off. When Ray shoot us, he go to prison. But if Officer Gil McCuddy saw the unity among our people, if he saw how much we loved each other, if he saw how much we care for each other, he would move differently. This is why you don't hear Asian lives matter. You don't even hear a lot of times brown lives matter, because they have a certain level of unity that other people know you can't mess with them. The example, when that Mexican brother was fired from that warehouse years ago, and there was a video of the whole plant start packing up. The owner says, no, I fired him. Brother said, you fired him, you fired us. He said, well, he's hired. Then we hired. Okay. We would never move like that. We'd be like, I got to feed me and mine. We got to eat. I can't leave. That's the mentality that we have, and that's bad mentality.
But why is that though? Because I'm always getting a conversation with this piece right here, what you're getting at. But why is that? Is it because that's not a self-inflicted thing all the time, right? There's a lack of education where you don't view yourself as, one another, or like you said, the self-love, the, learning about yourself. So, but why is that mentality so woven into our community now?
The mentality is woven because we lack the love. The Bible says perfect love casts out fear. So we're afraid that if we quit on our job, if we stand on integrity and stand with our brother, we're afraid, we're fearful we're not going to get resources. We're fearful that we're not going to be able to survive. You heard Steve Harvey tell Monique, he said, we black out here. We can't just move any old way. We got to flex differently. He said, I can't sacrifice myself in the name of integrity. That's the mentality so many of us have. And we have that mentality because we don't really feel like there's a certain level of loyalty among our people. Mm-hmm. If you knew that your brother had your back no matter what, whether you was a stranger or a relative, you would move differently. But when you kind of feel like he got this individualistic mentality, so I got it too, why would you sacrifice yourself for an individual who would not do it for you? But when you love your people and you know for a fact it's going to be regurgitated towards you, you would take that chance. See, other races know when I move, you move just like that. But when I move, you move, maybe. When I move, you move, if it don't cost you your job. When I move, you move, if I can still get the resources and be loved by white folks. So therefore, we're not willing to move when I move just like that. And we can't move when I move just like that until and unless we take on the mentality, when I love, you love, just like that. When I build, you build, just like that. Once we get that love and knowledge, when I learn, you learn, just like that. But we don't have that mentality. We have a selfish mentality at times where we have this, me and mine's eating, I got mine and get yours. But when we break that negativity mindset, then, not negativity, then we can start having the mentality other communities have. And this is not a new mentality. This is an old mentality, but it's getting worse by the day. And the solution goes back to us being the example. We don't have to judge our brothers and sisters. Clean glass, dirty glass. Put the clean glass next to the dirty glass, and the dirty glass gonna say something different about your water. But if we in the house, not too many men want to go in the community. Imagine if every person who got their head on right mentored the brother in the street. If every sister who has her head and heart right mentored a sister who was out there prostituting, we could change our world overnight. But when we feel like that ain't my problem, and no other community thinks like that, we will never be able to change our people. And so my encouragement and my hope is that we be patient with our people and we love our people despite the struggles that we may present to each other, and give each other grace the same way we'll give our enemy. And if we do that, we're going to be all right.
Oh, man. Hey, so 2021, what you got planned? I heard you say you got a rally going on this week.
So the rally's going to be January 17th. We're doing the idea came after we saw what happened at the Capitol. So it's going to be a racism, unity against racism rally. It's going to be in Vegas this Sunday. Monday's King Day. We're having our MLK Day in the Hood. Every Saturday we do our Mary Wesley's ride, giving our groceries to the community at bus stops. Every Tuesday we do a neighborhood patrol. So we're always constantly working. And we encourage to not be internet leaders, be physical, We understand we're in a pandemic, but the real pandemic is not the COVID-19. Real pandemic is self-hatred. The real pandemic is negativity. The real pandemic is us not loving our own people. We got to get through that pandemic first. And if we get through that pandemic, we can overcome any other pandemic. And so we work 365 around the clock. Our information can be seen on Instagram, New Era Las Vegas, Facebook, New Era Las Vegas, Facebook for me, Stretch Sanders, Instagram for me, _official_stretch, _official_stretch. And we're always constantly working and pushing. And what's so unique about the New Era Las Vegas movement is we're part of a national organization called New Era Nation. We have chapters all across the world and the country, founded with New Era Detroit. Now we have New Era Chicago, New Era Long Beach, New Era Dallas, New Era Cleveland, New Era Birmingham, New Era Philly, New Era Pittsburgh, New Era Los Angeles, New Era Birmingham, New Era Atlanta. I mean, we're all over. Hope I ain't forgetting no chapters, but we are literally all over the country with New Era Nigeria and Africa.
Man, hey, I want to thank you for, hopping on with me, giving me some of the time in your space, man. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I feel like I'm 28, you 26, and I love the journey that the people of my generation are taking. And we're like, actually getting into the actual, thick of it. And I'll blessings to you, man. I want to keep seeing the work, man. and you have a great day, man. Anything else you want to share before we get off?
Absolutely, brother. I just want to say, I first and foremost, in terms of our generation, we're a beautiful generation. We were the generation that they really didn't think a lot of because, again, Obama's presidency, it really had our elders and parents thinking that the work was done. And so with our generation, we really doing the best that we know how with limited resources. But with brothers like yourself and so many others and individuals like Tyler, so many of our young people, we're doing things that was never really in our future. It wasn't in our cards. And like the saying went back in the day, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams, and we are. We're answering the call that a lot of people before us did not pick up that phone. We're walking in a tradition when many before us chose not to continue to walk. And so I encourage anybody young, any millennial, any young generation, any old generation to continue to do the best that you can to make a difference in this world. You got one life to live. Why not live that life knowing you left your mark? Nobody wants to leave this earth knowing you wasted time. You got two ways to do it. You can live or exist. To exist is to just dwell. You just taking up space. To live is to make sure that you are actually doing something with your life. And the word I and the word O in love is interchangeable. So to live is to love, and to love is to live. And so when you live, you're loving, you're producing. When you love, you are living. And so I encourage all of us to continue to put in that work because you got one life to live. And to you, Brother Darae, I am forever grateful to be on your show. I hope it's not my last time. I enjoyed myself. Man, and to your listeners, I wish peace upon them and blessings. And man, let's take this year by storm. Let's do it.
Trey, what are you doing?